There's really nothing more powerful. There's very few things, I should say, that's more powerful than the story of a changed life. And here at Grace Church, man, God has been doing some great things in the lives of people here in our church and through the people of our church. And this morning, we want to encourage you by hearing some of their stories. And a lot of times, we don't slow down enough in order for you to know what God is doing and how He's working through the lives of people in Grace Church. And so we're going to have a few different interview type testimonies this morning, kind of interspersed throughout the service. And so hopefully this blesses you, and hopefully this is cause for us to celebrate what God is doing here at Grace Church. But I want to introduce to you this morning Will and Jordan Burgess. This is Will and Jordan. Give them a big round of applause. These guys are great folks that are very involved here at Grace Church. They're involved in my personal small group that we're a part of, and we just want to introduce them to you and give them an opportunity to share what God's been doing in their life. And it's been really cool because Will and Jordan have been a part of Grace Church officially now for probably about 5 or 6 years, somewhere around 5 or 6 years. But Will is actually kind of a product of Grace Church and a product of our college ministry here several years ago, and actually was baptized here at Grace Church. Will, why don't you tell us just briefly a little bit about your history here at Grace Church?
Well, since you trust me with the mic, I need to start with Go Broncos.
Yeah. Cheap shots, man. Everybody just go ahead and take your cheap shots.
All right. I was saved when I was 18. Moved into a college house with a bunch of Christian guys. They were going to church here, so I came with them for my first time. And after my first time, that next week, Bob Ross showed up at our house, and that was a surprise to me. I'd been to a couple other churches, never to even talk to the pastor before at those churches, and we talked about how I was saved. He asked if I wanted to be baptized. It really meant a lot that the pastor would show up to your house and take interest in a 18-year-old kid. So I think it was the next week, I was baptized right here. Moved on from there.
Sweet. That's a great story, man. Well, if you guys don't know, if you don't know Will and Jordan very well, Will is a numbers guy. Will is about, hopefully I'm not sharing too much information, but he's about a dissertation away from having his doctorate in accounting. So Will is officially known as Super Nerd here at Grace Church. No, he doesn't. He's passionate about numbers. He does a lot of accounting stuff at his work. And I'm still trying to figure out, Jordan, what was it exactly that drew you to Will? Can you explain that?
He stalked me for about a month.
Okay, so he's not only super nerd, super stalker as well. No, actually, these guys are some of my favorite people in all the world. Like, they're great folks. They host our small group, and even in spite of you sending me YouTube videos of John Elway and The Drive, I love you guys, and I just feel like you have a really powerful story. And so, being a numbers guy, though, I wanted to talk to you about tithing and generosity and giving in general, because God's done some really cool things in your guys' lives, specifically in the area of finances, because of a 90-day tithe challenge that we embarked on as a church a little over 2 months ago. And many of you were here for that. You remember when Pastor Justin encouraged our folks at our church to partake, if they've not already started tithing, if you've not already started tithing, to participate in this 90-day challenge, where if you will be faithful to God and your first fruits with the first 10%, we really believe that God would be faithful back to you. And so we encourage people to take this challenge, and over 30 of you families and individuals partook or participated in it, and Will and Jordan are one of these couples that did. And your guys' story is so powerful that we felt like, man, we need to really get this out there, because not only, it doesn't brag on you guys at all, but it brags on our God, and it brags on how faithful He is to us when we trust Him in the area of our finances. And giving 10%, man, many of you know, is a really scary thing. Was it a scary thing for you guys?
Yeah, it was. 10% doesn't seem like a lot in most scenarios until it comes to giving money away.
Right.
Then it seems like a lot. We've always thought it was. It always seemed easier to give leftovers instead of your first 10%.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is true for a lot of people, a lot of Christians in churches all around the world is that tithing is a very intimidating thing. It's a very scary thing to think about giving away the first 10% of your income. And so, as a result, many Christians never fully trust God and never fully surrender to the Lord in this area of their Christian walk. And so I would love for you guys, and maybe Jordan, you can share a little bit too. Why don't you guys tell me a little bit about your approach to giving and tithing specifically, on how it's been a part of your guys' marriage all these years up until the 90-day tithe challenge.
We gave sporadically. We gave when there was a special event. We gave when we had extra. We didn't have a real practice in place that we felt was, consistent. So we just we didn't really think about it in the sense that it belongs to God first.
Yeah. Would you say that you and Will were on the same page regarding tithing throughout your marriage up until the 90-day tithe challenge, or were you guys at odds over that? And how did it affect you spiritually as a couple?
I don't think we were on a different page. Will's a numbers guy, so he was always, juggling where our money went, and was always trying to make sure that our family got fed and that our bills got paid, so we had electricity and heat. And I am a really horrible numbers person, and so I just kind of ignored it and let him do all the work. So I don't think we were on a different page. We just didn't really discuss it a whole lot.
Right. So it definitely was something on the back burner, and you guys kind of gave out of leftovers kind of thing.
Yes.
Will, you've shared your story briefly, your guys' story briefly in our small group, and I know it caught my attention, and just wanted you to share about the morning that God got your attention in this area of tithing. Why don't you go ahead and share that?
It was the morning of the 90-day tithe challenge. She's being gracious. She brought up a lot of times we should be giving more and what we should, and I said we can't afford it. So she's being nice to me by saying that we were on the exact same page. But that morning was one of those. She brought up in the car, we need to be giving 10% to the church, and I was agreeing, but in the back of my mind going, we can't afford to give 10%. So we talked about it in the car on the way here, and then Justin started preaching about the 90-day tithe challenge, and I actually leaned over to Jordan and said, "Did you know he was preaching on this today?" I thought she'd set me up or something. She said, "Absolutely not." And so that, that right there was proof enough for me that we needed to be given 10%. In fact, she brought it up in the car, and then it was the topic of the sermon that day. Felt like that was what we needed to do.
Yeah. So one of the things that, if you don't remember, if you weren't here that Sunday, one of the things that Justin talked about in this 90-day tithe challenge is that at the end of 90 days, if God has not proven himself faithful to you in the area of your finances, if he has not provided for you, if he has not been good to you, then the church will give you your money back. We believe that much in this principle of tithing. And no questions asked. It's kind of a way for the church, the leaders of the church, and specifically Pastor Justin at that moment, to put his money where not his money, but the church's money where their mouth is. You know what I mean? And so that was one of the things that we talked about. And so we firmly believed, and I know Justin firmly believed, that God is going to provide for you if you will surrender in this area of your life. And so we wanted to hear the stories of what God has done in people's lives because they surrendered. You guys surrendered to the Lord in that area on that Sunday, and you guys took the challenge. And why don't you share with us how God, just showed up and showed off in your guys' life?
I went home that day and gave 10% after church. And to be honest, we couldn't afford it. It was more than we had to cover some stuff. And God's just provided so greatly financially through work. I won't get into how I'm compensated, but I've just been blessed. We've had more than enough to cover bills. We've been able to save money in addition to tithing. We've been able to give to other ministries on top of it. It's like I told Keith on the first, it freaked me out because we didn't have enough, and then to go where we're given more and to have plenty was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's just a great testimony. Yeah. I know you and I have talked just privately, following up with kind of how God has blessed you guys and how God has shown you guys. And we're still in the middle of this 90-day tithe challenge. We're coming up toward the end of it. And you made a comment to me that shows that your approach toward tithing and toward just being generous back to God with your first fruits has really changed. So why don't you share with us maybe how your approach to tithing has changed since you started this tithe challenge?
We just treat it as the first thing now. Give God first fruits, first 10%. He's proven he provides, and I wish we would have done it sooner. Stepped out in faith and done it, 5-6 years ago when we first started going here. If you're on the fence, I want you to jump off it onto this side because trust me, it's been a blessing and just been a great thing in our lives.
Yeah, one of the things that Will had mentioned to me was that even though you're still in the midst of the tithe challenge, the 90-day tithe challenge, you're kind of approaching it like it doesn't even matter at this point. Like you don't even consider the idea of wanting to get your money back or anything like that. This is just a principle that you guys are practicing from now on. And so 90 days is hopefully going to turn into a lifetime for you guys. So yeah, and like Will said, if you haven't started that, we'd encourage you to take the plunge, take the challenge. It's still available. If you want, you can grab one of the sign-up sheets that are at the Welcome Center at the end of the service. You can start your own 90-day challenge anytime. So anyways, just wanted to share their story with you guys, and hopefully that encourages you. Hopefully that blesses you. Those of you that are still kind of nervous about being faithful to the Lord in your finances, you're not really sure about this tithing thing, these guys are a great example of people that, they're just like you. They've got bills to pay. They built a brand new house recently, and so there's a lot of things going on in their life, but God has shown up because they've decided to be faithful to the Lord. And so let's give Will and Jordan and our Lord one more round of applause.